Brown here, managing editor with Geist Magazine. I'm at 305 Wine Garage today in Fortville. We're hanging out with Town of Fortville Planning Administrator Adam Zaklikowski and Town Council President Michael Frischkorn. Guys, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So we're just hanging out. A lot of interesting, exciting projects coming to the future of Fortville, and it's really created a lot of a buzz lately as far as what's coming up here. So maybe Adam, just fill us in a little bit about these three big projects that are coming to Fortville in the next coming years.
Sure. Well, one project that we have that's coming up is the Michigan Street Pedestrian Improvement Project. I think we talked about that, right?
And that one's underway
right now. And what we're looking to do there is Michigan Street is a primary east-west thoroughfare in town, and we've received some match funding from the Metropolitan Planning Association organization, basically from the federal government, and it's to put in new lighting, new crosswalks, new ADA ramps, and then also a flashing sign and crosswalk on Madison.
Right.
So that particular project should be wrapped up here in another few months.
In the fall is what you guys are.
Yeah, and we're pretty excited about that.
And that's one that's kind of been long overdue, right? The updates, and it's really needed. That's something people are going to be looking forward to seeing happening.
Absolutely. The second project that we should see coming underway soon will be the Main Street Corridor Improvement Project.
Right.
So this project has really been in the works for quite a few years. I know Council really put the initiative into action as part of the community-led downtown plan that was put together. And as part of it, really the hallmark of it is replacing the aging infrastructure that's in place. And so we'll still keep the quintessential Midwest feel of having angled parking on the street. We think that's really important. There will be new lighting, new landscaping, new crosswalks, slightly wider sidewalks, and so that's really the game plan for Maine.
And Main Street obviously has been a huge part of Fortville forever. That's where we're at right now, right off of Main Street. You've got a lot of new restaurants. We're in 305 Wine Garage right now, which is one of the newest shops around here that have opened up. Dining scenes. You've got Taxman in Fortville right beside us. So maybe and Michael, maybe you can even chime in a little bit about this, just about the restaurant scene and the shop scene that's kind of come in and flown into Fortville and really gotten people excited and kind of revamped Main Street lately.
Well, frankly, it's been great. It's really been kind of an organic process. It's come together over the last 3-4 years, and not to take anything away from businesses that have been here for a long time, but there was a lot of open space on Main Street just a few years ago, and to see these new businesses come in, the retail, the restaurants, it's brought a whole a new energy to Main Street that honestly Fortville has seen in probably decades, and it's really exciting to be part of, and it's really kind of helps push along some of these plans that we've been coming up with as a community.
Right.
During the comprehensive plan process, we had a lot of public meetings about what do we want to see Fortville look like in the next 10, 15 years, and one of those projects was the Main Street project, and the other one is the other large project we're looking at, which is the path out to the schools. It's part of the overall parks plan.
Sure.
Paths throughout town.
Yeah.
And it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, and Main Street really, it's the bread and butter of the town, right? So it's kind of people looking at this project and maybe saying, well, what exactly is it going to look like when it's completed? I mean, essentially, you're just making it nicer, right? You're updating the sidewalks, you're updating how it looks here, the landscaping. And it's going to be a difference that people can tell pretty soon, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's really an opportunity for us to leverage federal funds that are
Right.
coming in. So when all is said and done, the project would cost the town 20 cents on the dollar. The other 80 cents are coming in from the federal government. So
It's an 80-20 split.
that's right. That's right. And there's, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of private investment that has happened over the last few years, and so in some ways we're leveraging private investment that has been happening, and by having fresh infrastructure, it's another way to get additional private investment and to really keep the ball rolling, keep that momentum going on Main Street.
Right. Well, and Michael teased us up a little bit, kind of the next big project you guys have in the works, which is a little bit further into the future, but the Mount Vernon Trail, the bike trail that's going to be connecting Fortville to the Mount Vernon School Corporation, which is pretty unique, pretty interesting idea. So maybe talk a little bit about how you guys came up with that and why the Fortville residents should get really excited about that project. Either of you can chime in.
Sure, give the basics.
Well, the basics are the project includes a 10-foot wide asphalt trail that would be built along Maple, and it would start at Garden, so really on the south end of the Old Town area, and would work its way down to the intersection at County Road 200 West, and then it would cross over at a pedestrian signal, and then it would work its way down to the Mount Vernon School District campus, and there would be another pedestrian light at the campus. And so when all is said and done, we'd have about 2 miles of trail that would cause another physical connection between our school district and the Old Town area. And so we work very closely with the Mount Vernon School District, and it is nice to have another physical connection down there to that area. So that project will be developed in 3 different phases.
Okay. It's the biggest project you guys are going to, as far as how you're going to have to split it up.
Right. Yep, it would be broken up into 3 phases, but really the advantage of the project is that anybody will be able to walk or ride their bike safely along that corridor, get some exercise, get out to the school district campus.
It's going to be a nice family.
Yeah,
amenity for
absolutely. So we're really excited about it, and again, it's another way of bringing in some of those federal dollars to our community.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because those who might be watching might be thinking, well, how's the town paying for all of this, right? You talked a little bit about in MCOG. It's obviously the federal funding as far as this. There was an article that came out in another publication that kind of insinuated, you guys had applied for this $9 million grant and you got it all at one time, but that's not exactly the case. These things come in chunks. Adam, I believe last time we talked, you said you guys had collected, I think, around maybe a little over $1 million right now that's come in. So as you get the federal funds in chunks, they're kind of being dispersed out through these projects one at a time, right?
That's right. Yep, that's how it happens. It's not as if the federal government just writes a check.
And here you go.
Oh, we take that.
Which would be great. Nobody would complain.
And so, as time goes on, it's based upon the federal transportation appropriations as well. So, as long as Congress does its job and continues to fund the transportation improvements across the country, then those funds would continue to kick in. So, yep, they come incrementally, and then eventually they would make its way down here to Fortville. So.
Right. Well, let's talk about timeline a little bit. We talked a little bit about, obviously, Michigan Street. That project's underway right now, hoping to be done in the fall, should be done in the fall. The Main Street projects, I think you'd mentioned, maybe you didn't, I don't know, but we talked about it as far as maybe a date that you're shooting for that to be completed. I think it's October 2019 is what you're looking at. And then, of course, the bike trail, the Mount Vernon Trail, is going to be kind of the longer-term one. You're looking at March of 2020. So talk a little bit about maybe even community input as far as looking ahead, maybe some town council or town meetings as far as maybe the input the community is going to be able to put in for these projects, right?
Sure. Well, we've had one of the ways that the Main Street project and the trail project are related is we're bundling them into a Stellar Communities bid. And the Stellar Communities funding is it's a competitive grouping that comes from the state. It's low interest loans, it's grants, and it's tax credits for developers. And the Stellar Communities bid, if we are successful, we've teamed up with Greenfield. As part of that, there's been a tremendous amount of outreach to the community. In fact, we just had our last event at one of our successful concerts here.
Awesome.
In which people were able to learn not only about these specific projects in some more detail, but also about other projects as part of that Stellar bid. So, you know, one of the great things about applying for these Stellar funds is we're going to put our best foot forward. We think we've got a great team in place to try to be one of 2 finalists around the state. But it's also engaging the public on these projects again.
Right.
So there's been multiple touch points with the public to go over some of the specifics on these projects.
Sure. Well, and Michael, of course, you're a Fortville resident as well, right? So talk a little bit about maybe from your perspective as town council president, and just as a resident in general, the excitement for these projects and the excitement of what Fortville is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, when I moved here with my wife about 10 years ago, and she'd grown up in Fortville and gone to Mount Vernon High School.
So she's really seen a change over the years.
So she's seen a huge change, and her family has lived here for 100 years or something
Right.
like that. And her family has seen a huge change over that time period. And just in the last 10 years, part of the reason we moved back here was because we looked at Fortville and said that's a small town that is going to see growth, and we'd like to be part of it. And projects like the Main Street project, projects like the path out to the high school, the Michigan Street project, all of those are focused around around the people that live here.
Right.
They're not projects that help get more traffic through town. They're looking at how do we make it a better place for our families and our kids. And one of those ways is to make it safer, which is what the Michigan Street project does. And that, my family and I, we go for a walk and you cross Michigan Street and you look really well. And we taught our kids that
That's right.
you need to be really careful. And on Main Street, the busier it gets, the better it is for businesses. But that
Right.
means more cars, and that means more people, and that means more opportunities for things to not so good to happen. And so if we can make ways of making it safer for people to just be in a place, then I think that's a great thing. And also it's good to get people out and exercising, and just even if it's just going for a walk. If we have an opportunity to ride our bikes out to the high school for a football game or something,
Yeah.
great. Right now, there's not really that opportunity for a family to hop on your bikes and ride out there.
Right.
And I think that bringing that, connecting that schools to the town, frankly, like it used to be when the high school was in town, is a great connection. And trying to build that community through these infrastructure projects is kind of what government does.
Right.
There's some things that other people do better, but this is kind of what our bread and butter of building a community through infrastructure. And these projects really hit that kind of right out the head.
Yeah. Well, and Adam, we talked about obviously the 80-20 match. You're kind of getting, on these projects, you guys are basically getting, an 80% discount, right, with how that works. So, which is huge. And so, maybe just set the record straight for those of citizens that are a little on the edge. Are my taxes going to go up? How's this going to go? What's that going to look like?
No.
The answer is no. Definitive no. So you have it there. Your taxes will not go up for these projects. So that's a huge deal, right?
That's correct.
I mean, I'm gonna jump in on this one.
Sure.
I think being able to leverage federal funds for a town that's our size
Right.
is really great. I mean, this is allowing us to do projects that we wouldn't be able to do. And if you go out on Main Street right now, you're looking at a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of patching, a lot of things that we we should be, we can only spend so much money on because we have a lot of other things we have to be doing. And being able to take advantage of these programs and leveraging federal funds lets us do projects that we otherwise couldn't do or could do over the course of 20 years. And so that lets us make the town nicer, safer now, as opposed to trying to patchwork it over the course of years. And and this is using funds that we have available to us, as opposed to trying to go out for bonding, which is fine to do in my perspective if you're fiscally sound as a town. But this allows us to not have to do that, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find probably too many people complaining about that fact. So nobody needs to freak out. These projects are exciting. They're going to be on the horizon for Fortville. So there's a little bit of an update there on the future. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Some time to chat.
Thank you.
Over here at 305 Wine Garage. It looks great in here. If you haven't been here, stop by and hang out, grab a drink, and meet some friends. Thanks again for joining us, you two, and be on the lookout for this story soon at Geist Magazine and at Geist.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. See ya.